Welcome back to Namaste React. This is episode 9, Optimizing Our App. In this episode, we will see how we can write code in a better way, and we will also see how we can optimize our app, how we can make our app performant, how we can make our app very fast, how we can make our app lightweight so that it loads on the web page very fast, right? We will see all these things in this episode. So get ready. Take down your notebook and your pen and take down all your notes while I am teaching you, and let's just begin without wasting any time. So here is our project Namaste React, and let me open it up in VS Code. So here is the code for our app. Let me just quickly start the project, right? What command do I write? npm start, right? So we wrote npm start and our app should be running on localhost 1234. Let's just go to localhost 1234, refresh the page. Yep, so our app is loaded. Now this app works completely fine, right? There is no issues in this app. It is working perfectly. If you click on a restaurant, it goes to the restaurant page, shows you the menu, and the functionality is built in a good way. But is your code very clean? Is your code written in a better way? Or is there a way we can make our code better? The answer is yes. And I'll show you today how you could have written this code in a much better way. Okay? So, and then while I show you how you can write code in a much better way, I will be introducing you to a new concept in this episode. That is custom hooks. Before I teach you how to create your own custom hook, I want to introduce you to an important principle in computer science engineering. That is single responsibility principle, right? What does this single responsibility principle means, right? So single responsibility principle means that suppose if you have a function, or if you have a class, or if you have any single identity of your code, right? That should have a single responsibility. Right? What does this mean? Let me tell you. So over here, what is this? What is this body component? At the end of the day, all these components that we have created are functions, isn't it? So each component is a different function. So according to that principle, each of these components should have a single responsibility. Okay, so what do you mean by a single responsibility is? Let me tell you that suppose if we have this component restaurant menu. So the only job of restaurant menu should have to be displaying restaurant menu. That's all, right? Only single responsibility of restaurant card should be just displaying restaurant card, right? So if you see over here, restaurant card got some piece of information from the parents as props, right? From the parents, we got the props, we passed the props inside this restaurant card, and what this restaurant card did, it just showed the restaurant card on the web page. Right? So this is restaurant card has a single responsibility. Similarly, if we see header.js, right? So header.js has a single responsibility of displaying header onto the page. Got it? So similarly, for each component that we create, we should give it a single responsibility, right? And we should not do a lot of things in our component. If you are doing multiple things in same component, right? You should just break it down into different components, right? And that is how we created all these components, if you remember, isn't it? So we were just in the body component, remember, we were just creating our restaurant, right? We were displaying our restaurants on the home page, right? And then we got a place where we could have written restaurant card code over here itself. No, but we extracted that code and put it inside a new component, right? Which was restaurant card. Got it? So this is a good way of maintaining the code in a modular fashion, right? A lot of students don't understand what is modularity. Modularity means that you break down your code into different small modules, right? So that your code becomes more maintainable and more testable. How it will become more testable? Right? Because suppose if you have this single unit, right? When I have this single small unit of restaurant card, so I can write test cases just for this restaurant card, right? So when our big app will have a, our big app will have a bug, right? So that bug will, so if that bug is inside this restaurant card, that small piece, right? So that test case will catch it. Let me explain you once again if it is getting a little confusing for you. See, when you break down your code into small pieces, right? Small components, small different type of utility functions. So what happens is you test each and every small piece of your code, right? You write test cases for one piece, second piece, third piece. Similarly, you create all that, right? So whenever you are testing this restro card, right? If you have tested this restro card and all the test case, we have written the test case properly, all the test case pass. So if we introduce a bug, right? So we can catch that bug very easily, and then bug can be caught by just testing this restro card. Right? If you have a very big application where all these components are interlinked one inside the another, then you will get a random bug and you will have to check all that like whole big component to see where that bug is coming from. So distributing your code into smaller pieces and keeping it modular makes your code testable and maintainable, right? One more advantage is that suppose if this card is a single unit, right? So wherever in my app I would need to show a restro card, I can just reuse it. Isn't it? How cool is it? So if you write code in a modular fashion, if you follow the single responsibility principle, then what happens is you get features of reusability. So your code becomes more reusable, your code becomes more maintainable, your code becomes more what? Testable. You are absolutely right. So your code becomes reusable, maintainable, testable, right? So these are the important things that we get if we follow single responsibility principle. Now, I have talked a lot about single responsibility principle, but how can we apply it over here? Or is there a way? Is there a component which is not following a single responsibility principle? Let me also tell you that single responsibility principle does not have any hard and fast rule. Okay, you can't just see a component and say this is single responsibility, this is not single. It's not, there are no hard and fast rule. But what I am trying to say is that keep your components as light as possible. So whenever your colleague, suppose your colleague is seeing your code tomorrow, right? So when they see your code, they should, like, your code should be very readable. Your code should, when they see your, suppose if your colleague comes and sees this restro card, so they should see that, okay, this restro card is getting some props and it is just returning some piece of JSX, right? That is creating a card on the page. Very single responsibility, very abstract, right? Very, what you'll say, very modular, right? This is a well-written component, in my opinion, right? So what happens is, now I'll show you a place, right? I'll show you a component that can be optimized a little more to have just single responsibility. And what we will do now, I'll introduce you to an important concept of custom hooks. Okay, and we will now create our own custom hooks, right? So you know what are hooks, right? Do you remember what were hooks? So hooks are basically normal JavaScript function, but these are special JavaScript functions which are just given to us by React, isn't it? There are few hooks, right, which we have used, which were given to us by React, right? What were they? First hook that we studied was useState. The second hook that we studied was useEffect. And there was one more hook, right? useParams, which was given to us by React Router, right? React Router DOM library. So similarly, just like these libraries give you these hooks, right? Similarly, we can create our own custom hooks. In this episode, I'll show you how you can create your own custom hooks and how we can use these custom hooks to make our code more modular, to abstract the responsibility, extra responsibility from these components to a different hook. So why are hooks used, right? Hooks are like utility functions. Let me repeat it once again. Let me repeat everything once again. Like, let me summarize it. Hooks are like what? What is hook at the end of the day, right? Whether it is our custom hook or whether that hook is given to us by some library. At the end of the day, a hook is just a utility function. Normal function. No need to panic. A lot of people, you know, a lot of students like just panic when they listen to the word hook. Don't be afraid. Today we are going to create our own hook. We will create our own hook. So hook are just kind of like utility functions, right? So what we will do is we will just abstract, right? We will just take out some responsibility from a component and extract it inside a hook so that our hook and our component becomes more modular, right? And becomes more readable. Okay, so let me show it to you an example where we are going to create our own custom hook, and I will also show you how we can write code, how we can optimize it, right? How our code will be more optimized when we write this own custom hook. Okay, so let me just take you through that component. Let's now go to the restaurant menu file. Okay, so here is our restaurant menu file, and this is our restaurant menu component. So now listen to me very carefully. We are going to write our own custom hooks, and we will use it inside our restaurant menu component. So first of all, let me tell you that why I need to create a custom hook over here, or why did I choose as an engineer? See, let me tell you one important thing, that creating a custom hook is not a mandatory thing. But it's a very good thing, because that will make your code look more good readable, that will make your code more modular, that will make your code more reusable. Okay, so that is the use of creating custom hooks, and let me just show you why we need a custom hook over here. Right? See, if you see, there are two major responsibilities of this restaurant menu component. First major responsibility is fetching the data. Second major responsibility is displaying the data onto the UI. So don't you think that restaurant menu component should only be concerned about displaying the data? It should not worry where that data is coming from, how that data is coming from, what is that API that is being called. So it is not worrying, right? How? Let's take an example of use params, right? We had a use param hook, right? So this use param hooks gives us the res ID, and we don't know what is the code written behind the scenes, right? This use params is a hook, is a utility function. What is a hook at the end of the day? It's just a utility function, right? This utility functions, we don't know how this use params is getting the parameters, right? There would be some code written for use params, right? That will go check the URL, check what is the res ID over here, and then abstract that res ID and give it to you over here in this variable res ID, right? We are not bothered about the implementation of the hook. Similarly, what we are trying to achieve is, can I abstract my fetching data logic also, right? So that I just get the data, so I can have basically, see, what I am trying to do over here is, I am just fetching the menu, right? So somehow I just want a hook, right? A custom hook. What if we had a hook, right? Which is like use restaurant menu, right? Use restaurant menu, right? So we have this custom hook. Suppose if we had this hook, use restaurant menu, and this gives us this res info, right? It gives us the res info like this, right? Suppose if we had a hook, and we do not have to worry about how this custom hook is fetching the data, right? And we don't had this logic, right? We don't had this logic over here, right? Got it? So what we are trying to do is, I am trying to abstract, I am trying to take out that fetch data logic and put inside this hook, right? I will create this use restaurant menu hook, and now if you see it clearly, right, this restaurant menu component, it does not have to worry about how to fetch the data. It just have to worry about that this is the res info, I have got my restaurant data inside it, and I just want to display it now, right? It does not have to manage its own state. It does not have to manage its own state. It just somehow magically gets access to this res info. How cool would it be? It would be cool, right? So what we are going to do now is, we will create our own custom hook that will fetch the data, right? Fetch the data and will give it to restaurant menu. So if you see it clearly now, this restaurant menu have a single responsibility. It is just concerned about displaying the restaurant menu onto the UI. Got it? Displaying the restaurant menu onto the UI. That is the only responsibility of restaurant menu, right? And the code will also be a little cleaner, isn't it? So now let us just see how we can create our own custom hook, use restaurant menu, right, to fetch the data of the restaurant and give it back to this component restaurant menu. How cool would it be, isn't it? So now if you see it clearly, right? So restaurant menu component does not have to worry about how we are fetching the data, right? How we are fetching the data. It is just concerned about that I have got my res ID, and now with this res ID for that particular restaurant, I just want my restaurant menu. Okay, so basically I will just give my res ID to this hook, right? To this custom hook, and now somehow magically I want that restaurant information into my component. Right? So restaurant menu does not have to worry about the implementation of this uhook, right? So implementation of how we are fetching the data. Restaurant menu does not have to worry about that. So the single responsibility of restaurant menu is to get the data and display it. So how to get the data is abstracted. Very small thing, right? How to get the data is, restaurant menu is not concerned about that. How to get the data? How am I getting data? It is just doing some black magic, right? This hook is just taking some res ID. So I want my data to get into my component, and that's all restaurant menu wants to do. And it does not want to worry about how we are fetching the data, right? So now let us just write our own use restaurant menu hook, right? So how do we write it, right? Now let us see how do we write it. So now, if I have to create a hook, right? First of all, let us understand that hooks are nothing but normal utility functions. They are like helper functions, right? Helper functions. So when they are helper functions, so generally the best way or the best place to create these helper functions are in utils, right? I would love to create my hooks inside utils, and always prefer to create a separate file for a separate hook. Right? That's a good convention to follow. That's a good pattern to follow in your code base. Okay. So if I have to create this hook, what I will do is I will just create a new file for it. Right? And in my utils, right? In my utils, I will just create a new file, and I will name the file exactly the same name of that hook. Right? That's a good thing. Right? And let me also tell you, whenever you are creating a hook, right? Always start with the word use, with a small case, right? Small case use, and then a restaurant menu, right? So why we do that? Because that's a way for React to know if the function name is starting from, if the function name is basically starting from a small letter use, right? Small characters use, USE, that means it's a hook. Right? React understands that. So that is why we use that, right? So we will just create a hook, right? What is a hook? It's a normal JavaScript function, isn't it? So use restaurant menu, right? This is a hook. Now, what is the responsibility? How do we write the hook? Now see it clearly. How am I writing this hook? Hook is a normal JavaScript function, right? It has some job. What is the job of this use hook, right? Use restaurant menu hook. If you see it clearly, it takes a res ID, right? It just takes a res ID, right? It will just take the res ID, and its job is to return the restaurant information, isn't it? Its job is to return the restaurant information, right? Somehow it will just, we will write, whenever you are writing hook, think in this terms only, right? First of all, try to see the contract. We get the res ID, what we want to, right? Think of it like this way, right? We have this hook, use restaurant menu. What this hook is doing? What is it getting as the input? What it is getting as the output, right? What is the contract of that hook? The contract of this hook is, it gets a restaurant ID, right? It gets the restaurant ID. Suppose Meghna Foods, right? We have a restaurant Meghna Foods, or maybe McDonald's or Domino's. So we have the restaurant ID. Now it has to fetch the data and return the restaurant information back to where that hook is being called from. Got it? So we take this restaurant ID and return the restaurant information. And here, what we will do, we will somehow fetch data, right? We will fetch data, and then we will return the restaurant information. And let me export this hook as well, right? And how do we export it? Exactly the same how we export everything else, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just a function, isn't it? It's just a utility function. So export default use restaurant menu, right? So we have this hook in place. Now let us just fetch the data now. How do you fetch the data? Right? How do you fetch the data? So we will fetch the data exactly the same way how we used to fetch the data inside the component. Got it? How we used to fetch the data inside the component. Because it's also React, right? React is tracking this hook as well, right? So we will fetch the data just how we used to fetch the data in components. How? Inside our use effect, isn't it? So inside our use effect. So first of all, right, I need to import my use effect, right? Let me just import my use effect hook, right? And let's just use the use effect hook, and now I will fetch the data inside it, right? I will fetch the data inside it. Got it? I will fetch the data inside it, and we want to fetch the data only once, right? Only once. So we will be writing a empty parenthesis, empty square brackets. Now I will fetch the data over here, right? Let me make a function fetch data and call this up, right? Call this fetch data method. Now we have this constant fetch data, right? And this is a normal JavaScript function, right? How we used to do this stuff you already know. I have created a async function, right? I have created a async function. Now I will fetch the data. So how do I fetch the data? Const data is equals to await fetch, right? And what am I going to use? What was the API which we were using, right? We were using menu API, right? So let me just copy paste from restro menu. See, now when I am abstracting my code, abstracting the logic of fetching data from my component, now my component becomes lighter, right? Now it does not have to worry about menu API, because now menu API is required over here, right? So I want my menu API to be fetched plus along with my res ID. So basically I want to fetch data from this URL, right? And now I want to convert this data into JSON, right? Is equals to await data dot JSON, right? Data dot JSON. Got it? And now what I will do is, now what I have to do is I have to return this data, right? How do I return this data? I want to return this res info. So what is this res info? Res info is basically a local variable for this hook, right? So just like we have state variables inside components, you can create a state variable inside your hook as well. Exactly how you do it, right? So I'll just create a res info variable, right? Constant res info, right? And this variable is coming from my use state hook. Got it? And what is the default value of this res info, right? What is the default value? Let's give it null. Okay, let's give it null. Initially there is no restro menu, and then later on we will just fill it. And then along with this res info, we will also have set res info, right? Set res info. And now we have created this state variable. We are fetching this data, and now when we have got this data as JSON, I will just do a set res info of JSON. Got it? Now I have set res info as JSON. We fetch the data, we have updated the res info, and we are returning the res info back. Did you understand this code? There's nothing new am I writing. I'm just writing it in a different fashion inside a hook, inside a utility function. So basically this use restro menu, all this logic of getting the data from the API, right? Making an API call, getting the data, I have abstracted all this logic. I have combined, I have taken out all this logic from our main component into this hook. Right? Now, restro menu does not have to worry about how am I getting the data. It just needs to worry about this res ID and passing this res ID, and somehow magically res info will get that restro information. It does not have to worry about what's black magic going behind the scenes, right? Inside it. And if you look at clearly, right, our code looks much more cleaner. isn't it? Our code looks much more cleaner, and it is in less number of lines, right? Earlier we had the fetching data logic inside the restro component also, right? So similarly, now the major single responsibility of this component is just to display the data. It does not have to worry about fetching the data. Got it? That is the use of this restaurant menu hook. So now we have got this. Now let me just save it up, and let me just, fingers crossed, let's just see if it works or not, right? Hopefully it should work. How it will work? But no, why it will work? We have just created it. We need to import it also, right? And now we don't need. So basically now see, if you will see clearly, now we don't have to manage state of this. We don't need a state inside a restaurant menu now, right? We just need to import this hook, right? And import it from where? Import it from our use restaurant menu, from our util/use restaurant menu.js, from this file, right? That's all we have to do. Let me save this file and let me go back to the web page and let me refresh the page. Oh my god, we have got an error. What is this error? Let us just see. Cannot read property undefined. Oh, I understood. This error is basically because it is just getting this res info as undefined. Why it is getting it as undefined? It's not finding this cards because over here I need to do json.data, right? So basically it comes down as data, right? So basically the data that we got over here is a object. This is our JSON. We have to pass in .data, right? So I have to do .data, and let me just save it. Let me go back to our page, refresh the page. And did you see? Now this code is the same. It is working the same way as it was working before, right? So there is no change in the feature, but this is a good way of writing code. Did you understand that? This is what I wanted to show you, my dear friends. This is what I wanted to show you, that you can, a lot of people can write code, right? A lot of junior developers can build the same thing, and a lot of senior developers also can build the same thing. But a difference between a junior developer and a senior developer is how you write the code, right? Now, if you will write the code in a modular fashion, right, and a more maintainable fashion, in a more single responsibility fashion, then your code will be much more good, right, to maintain when your project grows, right? See, I want all my Namaste React students to just not make the app working, right? You can make the app working, you can display something onto the UI. No, your code should be clean, your code should be readable, your code should be lightweight, right? So that is what I wanted to teach you. That is why I am teaching you all this stuff. So if I was in the place, while I was teaching, I should have already created a hook when I was writing that logic. But I waited for this episode to abstract that and show it to you, right? Otherwise, when we were creating this restaurant menu component itself, right, it should have come to our mind that, okay, I should create a hook, right? Instead of fetching the data right in my component, I can create a hook, and I can, I can give that responsibility to a hook, right? A utility function, instead of calling my data inside this component itself, right? This is, this is the wisdom, this is the decision that you have to take as a developer according to your wisdom. Let me tell you honestly that there are no issues if you make an API call over here. But if you make your API call inside a different hook, that makes much more sense, and it makes it testable, right? Why I say it is testable? Because now if I have to test the fetching data logic, I just need to test my restaurant menu. Suppose if there is a issue in my fetching data logic, I know that where I have to make the changes inside this hook, right? I don't have to wrap up my head inside restaurant menu, because I know that fetching data logic is there in restaurant menu. So if there is some issue, right, there is a bug relating to fetching data, I have to go to use restaurant menu. If there is some issue with displaying the data, I have to come to restaurant menu. So restaurant menu component now has one single major responsibility, that is just displaying the data, right? Fetching the data logic inside our custom hook. So that's how we create an own custom hook. Now take a break over here, pause this video right away, go back to your code and try to create your own custom hook. Try to, you must be having a component where you have a fetching data logic and you have a displaying data logic in the same place. Try to abstract it out as a hook and see if you can write that hook, right? You can create your own custom hook. Please create it and you would love it, right? And then I'll see you back once again in this episode. So just go back and see you very soon. Welcome back to Namaste React. Hope you would have coded that custom hook and hope you would have abstracted that fetching data logic into your own custom hook and you would have found it awesome, right? You can abstract your logic into a different custom hook and now you can create your own custom hooks. And now you would have also got an idea, right? How that use param would have been working behind the scenes, right? Somebody would have written a logic to get the data from the URL and send it back inside this use param. Would have understood, right? So I want you all to be a very extremely amazing React developers, right? I want you all to go to these libraries and contribute on open source and build a lot of hooks which can be exported as libraries and people are importing your hooks, right? I want people from my batch of Namaste React to create hooks and make it open source so that other people can use it. I have a lot of ideas of hooks, right? Let me give you. Can we make a, I want you to be super good developers, right? If you can create custom hooks, that means you can create custom utility functions and you can export it as a package and put it up on NPM so that the world can use it. I want you to be amazing developers, right? So that is why I am teaching you. You can build it. Suppose, let me give you an idea. So suppose, can we make a hook? Can we make a hook, right? Or can we make a library, just like we have React Router DOM, right? Can we make a library which exports, right? Which exports some hooks like use local storage, right? Use local storage, or maybe use session storage inside your application, right? So there can be a lot of utility functions that you can build and export it up, publish as a package. These are just projects that I am trying to tell you that try to build it, right? It will be amazing. It will be fun. And let me tell you that, sometimes we think that, okay, only great developers are creating those packages. No, you can also create those NPM packages. What's there, right? You can also create, you can also publish your packages on NPM, right? It's not hard. It's not hard. Trust me. And now you have a lot of, you have to just understand that you are capable enough, right? You have a lot of knowledge now, right? And similarly, you would have understood, right? This use params is just a hook, another utility function. It is written by some developers of React Router DOM, right? And they would have written some logic to get URL params, right? Get URL params and give it back, right? As res ID. So that's all, right? So similarly, you can create your own custom hooks. Now, a lot of people get confused with this custom hook logic. So let me now show you one more example of creating a custom hook, right? That will just strengthen your understanding of custom hooks. I want you all to be very good at custom hooks because I like it, right? It's a cool thing and it can make your code look much more better and much more utility, right? Much more useful, right? So let me just show you one more feature. So the feature now we are going to build is online offline feature. Okay, somehow I should have a hook that can give me the status of my internet, right? So what I'm trying to build is, suppose my website should know whether the user is online or offline, whether the user's internet is active or inactive. Got it? Is the user's internet online or offline, right? So, and where do we use this kind of feature, right? So you must have seen, have you seen that chat window, right? Your Facebook chat or Google Messenger or something like that, right? Or your Slack status, where you must have seen that there is a green dot, which when you are online, when you are active, when your internet connection is active, then it shows as green. As soon as your internet connection goes off, it shows as red, right? So you online offline feature. So similarly, can we build that type of feature, right? So that is what we are going to build now. You will be amazed, right? You will be amazed at how easy it is to build that feature, right? Using our custom hook. And we will create a custom hook to get that information into our web page, right? And then how do we use that feature in this page is, so see, suppose if the user is on this web page, right? Suppose if the user is on this web page and suddenly the internet goes off. So what do we know is that if the user will click on this card, it will throw an error, right? There's some error that, okay, the website is not loading, 404, right? Like, because the internet is not working. So what if we can just show that you are offline, right? Suppose if the user is offline, if suppose the internet of the user is not working, then we can show something on the web page. Our website can work even if the user is offline, right? So how can we develop that? And there are much more utility of that hook, right? So let's create that type of hook and you will be amazed by that, right? So whenever the internet of the user is not working, we will, instead of showing this restaurant card, we will show, looks like you are offline. Please check your internet connection. You would have seen a lot of times on some websites, right? So if I just turn off my internet, they get to know that, okay, the user is inactive, right? Or the internet is not working. You must have seen that type of feature. So we are going to develop the same in our app and you would be amazed, right? So to create a hook, let me just create another file in my utils, right? And let's call it as use online status or something like that, right? Use online status. This will give me the online status of a particular user. Got it? Let's create that, right? And how do I create that hook, right? Again, the hook is what? Use online status. So first of all, I have taught React to a lot of people, right? A lot of students. So the most common question is, Akshay, I want to develop a custom hook. Right? They ask me this question a lot. Akshay, I want to create a custom hook, but I don't know how to start writing it, right? How to think, how to write my thoughts in the code. I'll tell you now. First thing you should do is finalize the contract. What do you mean by contract? What is the input of that hook? What is the output of that hook? Right? Just like the contract of use restaurant was, the input was res ID and it returns restaurant information. If you know these two things, then it becomes easier to write your hook, right? So similarly in use online status, first of all, what is the contract? What should be the input? Do we need some information, right? A specific information to show the online status? No, we don't need it. What should a hook take, right? What should be the input to that hook? We actually don't need anything to find that, right? You will see it right away. Use online status, right? So the contract over here is that in this hook, we actually don't need any information. What we will do over here is we will just try to check, right? Check if online, right? And then return my, what should I return? So the input is nothing. It will just check online status and then it will return online status, right? Online status. Now this online status is what? Online status. Return the online status if it is online. Now this online status is a boolean. Return a boolean, right? Boolean. Boolean value, right? So basically we know the contract is that we don't need any information from the caller, right? When I say caller, right? Caller means wherever this hook will be used, right? So if I go to my restaurant menu, see this use param. The caller is this restaurant menu. So to get the parameters from the, listen to me very carefully, to get the parameters from the URL, I don't need any particular information from the caller, right? From the component where it is being called. I don't need. I just need to access my URL, right? That I can do it by using utility functions, by using browser functions, right? Similarly, over here, I don't need any extra specific information from the component. I just need to return a Boolean value, right? And then export it, right? Export it. So hope you would have understood till now, right? And now let us try to write the logic that how can we check if we are online or offline. To check whether we are online or offline, we will use a event listener, right? online event listener, right? So basically there is a listener, event listener online, which will, this one, right? Go online event, right? Just check window.online event. So browsers gives us access to this window object, and this window object already has this event listener online to it, right? So I would be using this event listener. I would be using this event listener to find out whether you are online or offline. Okay, I would be using that. So now I will use those event listeners over here, right? In my code over here, right? Checking online status. So one question I have to ask to you, that those event listeners basically will keep a track of when the internet is online and when the internet is offline, right? So those event listeners is a superpower that is given to us by window object and the browsers, right? So browsers gives us that superpower. Now we want to just add that event listeners to our web page, right? So for that, can you answer how many times should I add that event listeners to our browser? Just once. You are absolutely right. We just want to add it once. So how I can just add my event listener once? Remember this? Remember something? Yes, you are absolutely right. We will use effect, right? So whenever we use a use effect, right? We will use a use effect, and we will use this use effect along with a empty dependency array. So now if whatever I write inside this, right, will be executed just once. Remember this, right? From the last episode. So what will happen now is whatever I will write inside it will be executed once. So I will put my event listeners onto the web page once, right? I will put my event listeners. Now those event listeners' job is to keep tracking when the internet is online, when the internet is offline, and return the status. Got it? When the internet is online, when the internet is offline, and return the status back, right? So how do I add that event listener? So what I will do is I will just add the event listener like this. Add event listener. If you are not familiar with this syntax, go back in the MDN docs. You can find this syntax, right? It's very easy. It's just like adding any event listener to the web page, right? It's normal JavaScript, right? So if I go online, right? If I go online, then do something, right? What should I do? It basically changes the use online status and return it, right? So what is this use online status? It's a normal state variable, right? So let's create this state variable, online status, right? Online status. How? Use state. We will use a use state, right? So basically I'm just creating a normal local variable, and every time my status changes, I will just update my online status and will return it. Right? And will return, no, not use online status. I will return online status. Sorry, my bad, right? So basically I will return my online status over here, right? I will return my online status over here. And what I'll do is initial value of this online status will be, what should be the initial value? Let's keep it true, right? So basically the online status is green, right? It's basically the internet is working fine. Right? If my event listener is online, right? If my event listener is solely offline, right? If I go offline, then I want to update this online status to false, right? I will update my online status to false. Let me repeat everything once again. It's getting a little confusing. So I have my normal state variable online status, right? And this online status will keep a track of if my internet is working, it's true. If my internet is not working, it's false, right? So this event listener is tracking whenever I go offline. What should I do? I will update this online status with the value false. Got it? How to update this? Right? I can update this by using set online status. Set online status, right? Set online status. So I will just set my online status to false. Understood? I will set my online status to false. So whenever the user will go offline, I will update the online status to false. And whenever my user will go online, right? Whenever my user will go online, I will just update my online status to true, right? So what will happen is, and then I will just return my online status. So that is the only code required for building this type of a hook. Let's see this in action. Are you sure? Let us just see this in action. Can we use my online status? So what we will do now is I will just go to my body component. If the online status of internet is true, then show these cards. If the online status is false, right, if the user is not online, just show them a message, right? Let's show them a message, looks like you are offline, please check your internet connection, and something like that, right? Let us show that message to them, right? So let's go to that body component, right? Where was that code? In the body component, right? In the body component, where is the display logic? Right here it is, right? So see, here is also the fetch data logic, right? You can export it as a hook. Okay, do it. That's your homework. Now let's go back. So over here, I will check, right? Over here, I will check. First of all, let me import that hook, right? Import our hook. So import hook use online status from utils online status. Now, how will I utilize it, right? I will just get my online status here, right? Online status, right? And how will I get my online status? Use online status, right? It will just give me the use online status. So, and what I will write? If my online status is false, right? Is false, or maybe is equal to false, right? False. Then what should it do? It should just return a h1 and say, looks like you are offline, right? Looks like you are offline. Please check your internet connection. Okay, I'll just display this. Got it? So I have just put this up, right? I have just put this up, right? If my online status is false, it will just return this. If it is true, then it will just do whatever it was doing before, right? Whatever it was doing before. So let me just go back and let us just see. Use state is not defined. Oh my god. Okay, I forgot to import use state, I guess, right? I forgot to import use state here, right? I forgot to import use state in my online status component. Let me go back. Cool. So now the internet is working, my code is working. Let us just see, when this website will go offline, will it show the message or not? How we can do that, right? So I can turn off my internet from here. I am on the Wi-Fi, right? I can turn off the internet and then it should show me some message, right? But instead of turning the internet from here, right, it will just turn off the internet. I will just simulate it, right? In the browser itself, I can turn off the internet, right? I don't want to turn off the internet from here. You can turn off the internet from here also, right? But I'm not turning it off from here. Browser gives us the capability inbuilt to check our website, how it will look when we go offline, right? So I will use that, right? So that is inside our network tag. If you go to the network tab, I bet a lot of people over here, a lot of students will not know about this. But what you can do, you can just simulate a offline experience, right? You can simulate a offline experience. Got it? So how we'll do? I can just go here and choose offline. So now, see this. Looks like you are offline. Please check your internet connection. So whenever you do offline, that means browser will simulate a offline connection. Got it? So now, if somebody is using your app, right? If somebody is using this app and their internet goes offline, so this message will be displayed onto their web page, right? Their message will be displayed onto their website. How cool is that, isn't it? Looks like you are offline. Please check your internet connection. Cool, right? So this is how you can implement this. And maybe let me give you an important thing. Now you know, right? So now basically, suppose if the user went offline, right? Their internet connection is gone. Now you can give them a good game, right? You can give them a good game and you can keep them engaged on your website. And when their internet comes back, just like you have seen inside Google Chrome, right? There is a Dino game which comes up when you get offline. Now you understood how that game is built, right? So basically it is behind the scene checking the online status of your internet, right? Because that functionality we already have. And then as soon as you go offline, Dino game starts, right? Similarly, in your website also you can build some games or show them good UI or something like that, right? Instead of showing them an error page or something like that, right? So you can increase the experience of your user by just doing these small things. Cool, right? So this is something cool which I like to teach, right? I have been teaching this feature a lot of times, right? So I really like this feature, right? And this is very important feature if you are building a chat application, right? If you are building a chat application, if you want to show a green and a red symbol, right? If you are online, offline, so that's one way to do it, right? Or maybe let me just show it to you how we can do it. So online, maybe let's have a green dot and a red dot on the top. As soon as you go online or offline, it will just turn from red to green and something like that, right? So let me first of all go online once again, no throttling. So see, if you go back online, you get this web page, right? If you go offline, this will give you this, right? So this is how you would build this up, right? Now let me just show you that how we can reuse this and build this green and red dot, right? So I'll just show you. Yeah, and why I'm going to show you is because I also want to show you the reusability. That see, we have just built this online status once and I can use it wherever I want to in my whole big application, wherever I want to. So suppose we have used this online status in my body component. Now what if I want to change something in my header also, right? In the header we have this home, about us, contact us, right? Similarly, let me create one more li, right? One more li list item over here, right? One more list item. This will show online status, right? Online status, got it? Online status. And this online status will be, right? So basically I will use my online status from here, right? How do I get my online status? It is very easy, right? We just have to import our hook. It is easy as easy as importing our own hook, right? Let me import our own hook, use online status. Now I can use my online status. How? I can create a normal variable, online status is equals to use online status. And now I will start getting my online status over here, right? Now I will start getting my online status over here, right? If my online status is true, then I am just writing the ternary operator, right? Then show a green check, right? Let me show a green check. And if my online status is false, then show a red dot, right? Red dot or something, right? Red dot. Got it? So this is how I will show, right? Okay, this should be strings, right? These are like characters, so I should put a string, right, in double quotes. So we see, I have done this. Go back to the URL. See, the online status is green right now. See this, online status is green right now. Now let me just go offline. If I go offline, see this, the online status turned red. How cool is that, isn't it? Creating this hook. Let me just go back online first of all, right? See this, green, and now if I go back offline, it is for red. How cool is that? Isn't this amazing? Now you know, if you want to create a chat application, right? If you want to create a chat, you must have seen facebook.com, you have a chat window on the right hand side, bottom right hand side, and you show that online offline status. You can show it like this. You can create your own custom hook. And how easy it is to use. See this, just one line, 2 lines, and we can show this online offline status, right? These features look tough, but these are very easy to build, right? We have created our own custom hook. Wherever in our application I want to do something on the basis of online or offline status, I can use this hook. Amazing, right? This is an amazing utility. This is what I wanted to show you, that you can create a custom hook for literally anything, right? Literally anything. And don't worry, hooks are very easy. They are just normal utility JavaScript functions. Just normal JavaScript functions, right? Right? So this is an important thing which I wanted to tell you. And now take a break over here. Try to implement this online offline feature in your app. Try to, whenever the user is browsing your website and suddenly their internet goes off, don't show a random blank page, right? Show them something cool, right? Try to be innovative, right? Show them something cool and implement however you want to in your app. And that's it, right? I wanted to tell you. So take a break, do that, and let's come back. Then I will show you amazing things, right? There are a lot more amazing things which I am going to show you next in this episode. So come back very fast. See you soon, right? Bye-bye and keep coding. I have taught React to a lot of students, and there is one more important question that a lot of students ask, right? That is that when we create our own custom hooks, so is it mandatory to use the word use before you write the name of it? So see, it's not mandatory. If you don't write the word use over here, right? If you don't write the word use over here, it's not mandatory. If you go and check the React docs, they recommend you to use the word use, right? Why? When you are creating a hook, right? And similarly for component name, right? So if you create the component name, you should always create the component and keep the name as a capital letter, right? The first letter should be capital. And similarly, you should have a use bit before the hook. So it's not mandatory, right? If I try to change it right now, it will work over here. But a lot of times, most people in React projects set up a linting process, right? Linting process, and your browser and your linter will start throwing error if you don't put it, right? It's not a hardcore rule, but a lot of projects use a linter. That linter will throw an error if you try to not follow that convention. Okay, so what I am going to tell you is that always do what the library recommends, right? So library recommends that you are using the word use. So always use a word use if you are building a custom hook, right? So if you don't use the word use, nothing is gonna break. Try to do it yourself, right? If you do it, it won't break, right? Nothing will happen. It will work exactly fine, but it's a good practice to use the word use. One more reason why you should always use the word use is, suppose if your friend, right? If somebody comes, right, and sees your code, suppose I'm in header.js and I see that, okay, online status, use online status. So that person knows that this is a React hook and not just a normal function, right? It is not a utility normal function like get online status, right? Suppose if we had the get online status, right, I can rename it to get online status. But if you use the word use over here, so now the reader or the reader of that code knows that this is a custom React hook. That means in this function, in this utility function, there must be some React logic written. Got it? React logic means this hook over here will have its own state. This hook over here will have its own life cycle. This hook over here will have its own use effect or use state or whatever, right? It is managing its own things in a React way, right? So this is a function which is written in a React way. So, you know, it's a very common convention in developers world to be specific when we are writing code, right? It should be readable also. So that's one way to look at it, right? But it is not a very hard check rule. If you will just change the name to get online status everywhere, it will still work. But you know, but when you will go to the industry, right? So generally, like senior developers are smart. Generally, when we build our project, right? When we make our project, so we generally set up linters, right? So linters are basically tools. Read about it, right? You have ESLint, right? So you can, if you set up your linters according to React, so it will start throwing an error if you don't write use over here, right? So always use this convention, I would say, and don't argue a lot, right? This is a recommended way, and I personally feel it's a good way, right? Always use the word use and always start your what you'll say component name with capital letters, right? So follow the convention which the library suggests, and happy coding. Welcome back, my friends. Now I will show you how you can optimize your app even more. You know, whenever we develop large scale applications, right? Whenever we develop large scale big applications which have thousands of components, you know, real world projects have thousands of components. They have so many components, one over there, and like they are nested on so many levels, right? When you build such large scale applications, the performance of those applications are not good. So when you are building a large scale applications and you want the performance to be good, how to make it performant, right? So that's what we are going to study now. Open your ears and listen to me. I'm going to teach you amazing stuff now. Okay, so first of all, let me tell you that what is the problem, right? What is the problem with developing such app, right? A large scale app, right? So suppose right? I'll tell you one thing, one interesting thing. Okay, if I do inspect over here, right, and if I go to network tab, so okay, before moving on to that concept, I want to ask you an important question. Okay, one important question is, whenever, right, whenever you are developing an app, right, whenever you are developing this React application, right, remember in the second episode, if you remember, the second episode was we talked about Parcel, right, and we said Parcel is a beast. Yes, everybody knows that, right? So what is a parcel actually? What is a parcel? I am asking you this question. So basically you are absolutely right. So parcel is basically a bundler. Remember we discussed about bundlers? What can bundler do? Remember in a readme file we saw parcel can do a lot of things, right? Dev build, local server, it can do HMR, it can do file watch, it has a file watching algorithm, it has caching, image optimization, minification, compression, consistent hashing. But one important job of a bundler, that a basic important work of the bundler is to bundle, our application, is to do bundling. What does it mean? What does it mean when I say it bundles our application? It means that it actually takes all your files and make it into one. It bundles all your files into one file, right? If you will go to the dist folder, right, and if you'll see, this bundler will bundle all these files and generate just one JS file, right? This is the one main JS file over here, right? And this is running in a development mode, right? So it has not compressed yet, minified yet, but when you develop a production build, right, this whole code will be compressed, minified, and like obfuscated, right? It will rename the methods, functions, and it will make it very small, right? It will generate one, but it will only generate one JS file. It will bundle all these files into just one file, and it will give it onto the browser, right? So if you will see, it has just one JS file. Now don't worry about other files, right? This is just a JS map, right? This is just a mapping which Parcel is using behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, we just have this one JS file, which is the main JS file, which is loaded onto the browser. Do you want to see that? Let me show it to you. If you refresh the page, if you go to network tab, and if you go to JavaScript over here, right? I am just going to JavaScript here. If you see the JavaScript files, we just have this one JS file. And this one JS file is loaded, and everything that happens on your web page, all that code, right? All that code about us, if you'll go to about us page, if you'll go to contact us page, or if you'll go back to the home page, everything that is happening on your web page is happening through one JS file. All that code is present in one JS file, and your bundlers Parcel has made one JS file. Now what is the problem? Right? Is it good to have just one JS file for everything, or is it bad? Is it good or bad? Is it good or bad? Now some people gets confused. Oh, it's good because we don't have like thousands of files. Suppose if we let's say our app is very big, right? Let's take some examples, right? Let's go to Make My Trip, right? Let's go to Make My Trip. So I just love giving examples of Indian startups, right? This is one Indian startup, people watching from outside India, right? This is a Indian startup, not a startup, basically a mid-sized company, I would say. But it is used to book your flights, book hotels, homestays, and all that stuff, right? So this is the website. So think about a website like this, huge, right? It has hotels. You can book hotels from here. You can book homestays. You can book buses, trains, cabs, everything, right? And it has a huge big website, right? It has this huge big website. Suppose if we want to create a website like this, right? It has so many components, right? This is one component. This search engine is one component. This offers is one component. This is one component. Every other place we have this thing, right? Everything is a component, right? Thousands of components written in a single app. So if you will make one JS file of thousands of components, what is the problem here? The problem is that the size of that JS file will increase a lot. The size of this JS file will increase a lot. See this, the size is already 2 MB, right? 2 MB size. So basically this size is for the development build. When it goes to the production build, it will be much smaller than 2 MB, but still it is significantly high, right? Your JS file size increases by how many components it holds. How to optimize this? This is what we are going to see. And my dear friends, you cannot develop a large scale front-end ready, like production ready web application, right? Front-end application without And let me tell you, my friends, you can't build a large scale production ready application if you will not take care of this. Your app will become very slow. This home page will take a lot of time to load, right? This JS file will become so huge that when you will load this, it will take a lot of time to get, right? So you have to keep this in mind. And when you are developing a large scale application, you have to break your app down into smaller pieces, right? This is the possible solution. Can I break my app down into smaller pieces? Can I do something that my application is not just a one JavaScript file, but smaller JavaScript files? But okay, so there are two things, right? Either we can bundle or we cannot. Should we do bundling? Yes, of course. If suppose we have thousands of components, we don't need 1,000 files loading into our web page. That's like useless, right? That will be a lot of work for browsers to do, right? Making 1,000 calls, right? And we do not want to put like 1,000 files into one file, right? Both of these solutions are not true. So what we have to do is we will try to make smaller bundles of these files. We will make smaller bundles of these files. This process is known as, there are different names for this process, but let me tell you, my dear friends, right? Let me go to this page, right? app.js, and let me tell you, this process is known as chunking, right? Have you heard the word app chunking? This is also known as code splitting. Have you heard of code splitting? Have you heard of word code splitting? They are one and the same thing, right? A lot of people use the same, use a different words for the same thing, right? Chunking, code splitting, dynamic bundling, lazy loading, on-demand loading, dynamic import, and so many names for it, right? Let me write down names, right? If your interviewer ever asks you, right, it is talking about the same thing, right? Dynamic bundling, right? It is also known as dynamic bundling, right? There are different names, right? If you will go on the web, there are different names for the same thing. Basically, what they are trying to solve by saying this, that you have to chunk your application. You have to make your application into smaller chunks. You have to split your codes, code splitting. You have to make dynamic bundling, right? You have to do bundling in a dynamic way. Got it? So these are the same things, right? For the same process, right? To break down your app into smaller logical chunks. Got it? Let me take example of Make My Trip once again. So what can be smaller chunks inside it, right? What can be smaller chunks inside it? Let me tell you one thing, right? How you can think about it, right? See, if you can think about it, I'll tell you why this information is useful. I am teaching you because when you will give your front-end system design interviews, right? If you are interviewing for a senior role, senior front-end developer or a front-end lead or something like that, right? So you should know all these things very properly. If you are planning to elevate your career, you cannot be a great front-end developer if you don't understand these things, right? These are very important things to build large-scale applications. If you want to build like smaller applications with just few components, it's completely fine. One bundle is fine. One JS file is fine for the browser. But if you want to scale your application, these are the issues that you will get, right? So for that, how to tackle these issues? How to make smaller bundles and when to make smaller bundles? What should be there in these smaller bundles? So suppose I was doing a system design of Make My Trip. For me, I want to do a logical separation of my bundles. When I do a logical separation of bundles, that means a bundle should have enough code for a feature, right? A bundle should have enough code for a major feature in the website, and then we can split our bundles into these logical chunks. Over here in Make My Trip, it is very clear that I can make a bundle of components just for my flights, isn't it? Just for my flights. I can make a bundle just for the code and the components of homestays. I can just make a bundle for holiday packages. I can just make a bundle for train components. So there are various ways you can make bundles, but over here I can see this, right? So this is a good use case, that suppose this whole application have thousands of bundles, right? And suppose there are 10 things over here, and each flight has 100 components, so that 100 components can form one bundle. Hotels can form one bundle. Homestays can form one bundle with all the components. So similarly, you can logically break your application into smaller applications. So if you will see, these are smaller applications within a big application, isn't it? So this is how you can logically split your website into smaller bundles. Got it? So that you don't put a load on a single bundle, so that your request for that JS file does not become so heavy that it takes a lot of times to get into the browser. Understood? So that is why we do this dynamic bundling, code splitting, chunking, right? This is what we'll do. Now I'll show you how to do this, right? How to do this. So first of all, let us try to find out how can we build these logical bundles in our app, right? So right now our app is very small, right? I don't see a need for bundling it, but I want to teach you bundling, right? So let us assume we have a hypothetical situation where our app is not just delivering food, right? It also starts selling maybe groceries, right? So just like Swiggy has Swiggy Instamart, right? So Swiggy has their own main Swiggy business, right? Where they deliver food. For people who don't know what is Instamart, so all the Indians would know what is Instamart, right? It is very popular in India. But let me tell you that just like Uber, right? Uber has cabs, Uber has food delivery, Uber has grocery delivery, right? So Uber has Uber Eats, right? Uber has Uber. So similarly, Swiggy also have Swiggy Instamart, right? Just like Make My Trip has different verticals like flights, hotels, homestays. Similarly, Swiggy has food delivery and then grocery delivery. So suppose our app also had a grocery delivery vertical, right? Our app has a food delivery over here, but they also had a grocery delivery, right? That's a separate entity altogether. And now this grocery delivery, right? So suppose how to go to grocery delivery, let's create a link on the top. If I click on that grocery delivery, it takes me to a grocery page where I can see all these groceries and I can order it online, right? So assume that, right? We have a grocery delivery just like Instamart, right? People who would have used Instamart would know that what am I talking about. But suppose we are also selling groceries, right? And that grocery vertical also has a lot of components. Right now in our components, right? We have like around 10 components over here, right? For our food delivery business. Suppose we had grocery delivery also, right? So we can have grocery components also, right? So, and those grocery vertical has their own 10 components, right? So grocery home page, and then grocery menu items, and then grocery order page, and then grocery whatever and all that stuff, right? It can contain a lot of. So what we'll do, we will make a different bundle for groceries. We will make a different bundle for our main bundle. Got it? This is what I wanted to show you. So let's create few components, right? Suppose if we had a grocery delivery also, let's create a component for that, right? Grocery, right? We have a grocery business. Let's call that as grocery. Okay. This is a grocery, and let me just create a normal component, right? Assume that this is a big whole component, right? Which has a lot of sub-components and there are a lot of child components. Just assume, right? So for now, I am creating a normal component, right? Let me just quickly create it. Grocery, right? It's a normal JavaScript function that returns some piece of JSX, right? Return, right? And then H1 Swiggy, not Swiggy, or grocery online store, right? And right, store, and we have a lot of child components inside this web page, right? So suppose if we have a lot of, I'm just writing this text so that just to give emphasis on my point, assume that this is not just a small component, but this is a whole big components which have a lot of subcomponents, and then they have a lot of subcomponents, just like we had body, right? Body has a lot of subcomponents like Shimmer UI and all that stuff, right? Restaurant card, restaurant menu and all that stuff. So similarly, assume that grocery business also have a lot of components inside it, right? And we are exporting it up, right? Export default grocery. Cool. So we have this grocery, right? Now we have a different URL also. Where did we create a URL? In our app.js. Suppose in our app.js we have a /grocery also, right? Just like we have /contact. Let's build a /grocery, right? After contact, right? Let's build a /grocery, right? And let's give it this component grocery, right? And we have imported this grocery from our component /grocery. Got it? So we have this grocery over here on /grocery. Let's create a link on the header also, right? So that we can quickly move there, right? So let's create a link inside our header. If I go to my header after contact us, let me get my grocery over here, right? We have grocery and we have grocery. Got it? So now if you go over here, if you refresh the page, we have grocery over here. If you refresh the page, we have grocery over here, right? If I click on this, we have a grocery store, right? So we have this grocery, and this grocery business also has a lot of child components inside this, right? Think of it as a big app, a small app inside our React application. Suppose our app grows big, right? So how do I handle that? But this grocery code is still inside this bundle. Right? If you will see this JS bundle, grocery code is inside this bundle, right? If you will search for grocery, it will be inside there, right? See this. Our grocery is also over here, isn't it? Our grocery component is also over here. So now I want to logically distribute my application that my grocery and all the components of grocery should come from a different bundle. So now let me show you how we can do that, how we can create a separate bundle for grocery. So suppose we have grocery over here. Where is our app.js? We have app.js, right? So wherever I am importing grocery, right? So wherever over here I am importing my grocery. So I will not import my grocery directly like this, but I will import my grocery using lazy loading. Okay, so just like we call this as chunking, code splitting, dynamic bundling, similarly, we also call this as lazy loading. Why do we call that as lazy loading? Because when our app will load initially, right? Our app homepage will load. It will not load the code for grocery. Okay, it will not load the code for grocery. Listen to me very carefully. Only when I go to my grocery page, then only that grocery code will be there in our app. Understood? Initially, our code should not have grocery code. When I go to that link, then only my grocery code should come up. Got it? That is how we will do that, right? So that is known as lazy loading. So we will not load everything directly, right? But we will do a lazy loading when required. And this is also known as on-demand loading, right? On-demand loading, right? Whenever there is a demand, whenever the user is going on to that particular page, then only load that page. Understood? Initially, we will not load. When I'll go to the grocery page, then only load it, right? That is known as on-demand loading. Got it? So how do we do that? So what we'll do is, we will do something known as, now we will not import our grocery like this, right? How we will import our grocery is, we will get our grocery into our app by using something known as lazy. We will load it using something known as lazy. Now what is lazy? So lazy is a function which is given to us by React, right? With this lazy comes from our React package, right? React package, and it is as it comes as a named export, right? It is named export. We will import it over here using this curly parenthesis, right? Over here using curly parenthesis, I will write lazy over here, right? So we have got our lazy. Now we will lazy load it. We will lazy load it. And how do I do that? Now this lazy takes a callback function. Now this callback function, remember the syntax? Now this takes a callback function, and over here I can write my import, right? What is this import? This import is not this import. This import is not exactly this import. No, this is not that import. But this import is basically a function, right? This import is basically a function. It is not this import, right? This import is a function, and this function will take the path of this grocery, where it needs to come from. Basically, this import will take the path, this path, right? Will take the path of my grocery component. Okay, did you understand this? Did you understand this? Tell me, right? So let me repeat it once again. Now I will not be importing my grocery like this, right? Now I will not be importing my grocery like this. But now I will be importing my grocery using this lazy function. This lazy function comes from React library, and it takes a callback function, and this callback function uses this function import, and this import now takes my grocery path, right? This path of my component. Now, you know, a lot of people say that it's just a one-line code. It cannot do a lot of things. But let me tell you, my dear friends, this one-line code has a lot of power in it, right? We have just written this one-line code. Don't underestimate this single line of code. This one line of code can do magical things in your app, right? Magical things. I'll show it to you. Now, when we load our web page, right? Over here, what if I tell you that our JavaScript bundle, right? This index.js does not have code for grocery component, right? It has not loaded the code for grocery component. Now, let me go to the grocery page, right? Let me go to the grocery page, and if I click on that grocery page, just see this network call over here, right? If I click on that grocery page, I get something but wrong. Don't look at that, but look at this. We have got a new JavaScript file over here. We have got a new JavaScript file over here. Do you see this? So we basically now have splitted our components into two JavaScript bundles. Why it is not working is a different case. I'll tell you why it is not working. It is expected to be not working. But the important thing to note is now the grocery has its own bundle, and our main bundle is separate. Our main bundle does not have code for grocery component, but grocery.js, right? This grocery.js has its own grocery code, right? If you'll go back to the dist folder, right? See this. We have got this new grocery.js over here, right? This grocery.js will have the grocery code. Got it? This is what I wanted to show you. This one line is doing wonders. Now let me tell you why it is not working, right? It will not work, right? I knew that, right? And if you'll see the error, try to read it, right? Try to pause the video over here, try to read it. So basically it says that a component suspended while responding to a synchronous input. What do you mean by that, right? A component suspended while responding to a synchronous input, right? So why it happened, right? Let me tell you. Let me go back to the home page, right? Let me go back to the home page. Let me clear the console. Why did it happen? Let us first understand what happened actually. Right now, when we load this page, we only got one file, right? We only have one file over here, right? If you'll see it clearly, we will only have just one file. Oh, I did not clear this, right? So basically, if I reload this page, I will just have this one JS file, and it does not have grocery code in it, right? Now, I am loading the grocery code on demand. When I click on that, then only my grocery code will be loaded, right? If I click on this grocery, see, when I click on this, then only this request was made, right? Now, the React, see this, right? Now the React throwed an error that something went wrong. Why? Because this grocery code takes 12 milliseconds, right? This grocery code took 12 milliseconds to come to the browser, right? So what happened? React is very fast, right? React tried to load the grocery component, but the code was not there. So that is why React suspended the rendering, right? So what happened was grocery code was not there. So React, what it did, it cannot load. So that is why it threw an error. So why it happened was, let me explain you once again for the better understanding. Suppose we are on home page. Now we just have one index.js file, right? We have just one index.js file. I did not clear this, so don't worry about it, right? So right now it does not have grocery code. As soon as I will click on this grocery, right? As soon as I will click on this grocery, it will take some time, right? It will take few seconds to fetch the data of grocery, right? At that particular time, that middle state, right? React tries to render grocery and it is not there. That state, right? That causes that error, right? How to handle that state? We will use suspense, right? There is a cool thing which React gives to us to handle that state, that is known as suspense, right? That suspense is a component, right? And it comes from this React library, right? See this. So this suspense is a component, right? It is a component which is given to us. So it is a component, so its name starts with a capital letter. It's a component, suspense, which comes from React, right? Now what we can do is we can just wrap our component into this suspense, right? So React, if you'll go read out the documentation of React, right? If you'll go read out lazy loading React, right? Lazy loading React dev, right? If you'll go to the new documentation, go and search for this lazy, right? If you'll see the API reference over here, right? So React tells you that use suspense, right? Where is it? Where is it? Yes, lazy loading components with suspense. So React gives you suspense, right? See this. So React gives you this component suspense and you can wrap your component in suspense, right? I don't know. I love this name suspense, right? So this is a component. How do you use it? You just wrap your component which is not available at the moment. See, your grocery is not available at the moment. So you put this suspense and wrap your component around it and give it a placeholder, right? Give it a placeholder. So what happens is now you have to give this suspense a fallback, right? Fallback or a placeholder. I would like to call that as a placeholder, kind of like a fallback to what should React render when the code is not available. So basically kind of like a loading screen, right? So let me repeat it once again. See, when you are on the home page, your code of grocery is not there, right? So React tries to load something. It cannot load, right? Until the grocery code is there. So meanwhile, intermediately, React wants something to be present on that screen. And you can give that inside fallback, inside suspense, right? Fallback, you can pass it inside this fallback, right? Inside this fallback, right? You can pass it. How do you pass it inside this fallback? You have to pass a JSX. You can pass in JSX over here, right? JSX means any component. You can pass in Shimmer UI over here, right? You can pass in Shimmer UI over here. But let me not pass in Shimmer UI. Let me just show it to you that I can also write a tag over here, right? I can write my piece of JSX. You can pass in Shimmer UI also. Try it out on your own, right? Try it out. When you will try this out, try it out. You can pass Shimmer UI also. And over here, you can show some loading screen, right? Meanwhile, the code is being loaded. It shows you loading screen. Got it? And now if I save this, go back to my website, right? Go back to my website and let me refresh the page. If I refresh the page on my home page, we just have this one JS file. When I will click on this grocery, see this, the grocery code will be loaded and meanwhile, oh my God, okay. Loading was shown. So it loaded in like 10 milliseconds, right? We did not get a chance to like see, right? But what happened is it worked, right? It worked. It started showing you grocery code, right? It loaded this grocery file, but it happened so fast that we did not get to know. But what actually happened was, if we go to my home page, right? and let me refresh the page, right? So we don't have grocery code right now. When I will click on this grocery, right, it will take some seconds, right? 10 milliseconds. For the 10 milliseconds, we will see the loading, right? Let me see if we can see that. It is so fast, right? I mean, it's so fast that we cannot see it. Or maybe let me go it on a slower network. Maybe on a slower network, I'll select slow 3G, right? Maybe on slow 3G, I can see that loading screen, right? Let me go back to my home page. Let me refresh the page. We just have one file. And let me go to a slow network now. I'm trying to just see whether I can show you that loading screen or not, right? Yes, see this. We got loading, and then see, it took 2 seconds to load. See this, on a slow 3G network, this grocery.js took 2 seconds to load. For that 2 seconds, React was falling back to this piece of JSX. React was showing this piece of JSX. Meanwhile, our grocery is being loaded. Only 4 lines, and we did a lot of things. This is very, 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 very powerful, my dear friends. My dear friends, this is very, very powerful. Don't underestimate. These 4 lines of code can make your large scale application very fast, very performant, lightweight, optimized, right? And lot of times, code is easy. Lot of times writing code is easy. The most important things, why we have system design rounds. In your system design rounds, your interviewer will ask you these things. When you go into the interviewer, tell your interviewer that I can use lazy loading when my application grows. Suppose if your interviewer asks you to develop an e-commerce website, so you should tell him that, okay, I can use lazy loading to distribute my code into different chunks. These tech architects that work on these big companies, that tech architects, your front-end lead, the project managers, right? Their decision is to take, right? They take these decisions that, okay, let us, our app is taking a lot of time to load and our app is bloating. Okay. We also, there is a term bloating, right? When our app is bloating, or we also say that our app bundle size is increasing. So to reduce the bundle size, we do this code splitting. We do this chunking, right? We do this lazy loading, right? We do this dynamic loading, right? This is known as dynamic loading, on-demand loading. We also call this as dynamic import, right? This is known as dynamic import also, right? We are dynamically importing it. So when you use this dynamic import, when you use this lazy loading, all the code does not come at once, right? And it will only come when it is requested, right? So you have to logically break it. In your interview, tell this, right? When you will tell this, the interviewer will get to know that, okay, you are a mature developer. You know all these important things. You can build large scale applications, because you cannot build a large scale applications with thousands of components without doing this, right? If you want to build small components, small application with 10-20 components, that's fine. But if you go back and if your component size is increasing, your bundle size is getting heavier, right? It's 2 MB right now. Suppose it goes to 10 MB, then it should be concerning, right? So then we will start using these functionalities, right? Then we will start using these functionalities, and you can use it for whatever you wish to, right? Suppose I can also do this lazy loading for About Us, right? How can I do for About Us? Let us do this lazy loading for our About Us, right? How do I do that? So suppose if I don't want to import my About Us like this, I want to use my About as a dynamic import. I will just use I am just showing for the sake of doing it. It's not required though, because About is a very small component, right? It does not need a separate bundle, but I'm just showing it to you. So I can dynamically import it like this, right? If I save my file, now if you go back, let me go to my home page, right? If I go back to my home page, let me refresh the page. Oh, I am on slow 3G, right? Let me do no throttling, right? If I do no throttling, it gets faster. Let me refresh the page once again. Let me refresh the page. Let me refresh the page. Okay. Let me refresh the page. Yep. So we have this, right? So now our bundle size, so now we have this bundle, right? If I go to my About Us page, see this. So the About bundle is separate, isn't it? The About bundle is separate. Why it is throwing an error? Because I haven't wrapped it inside Suspense, right? Let me wrap About also inside Suspense, right? And let me use the same loading over there, right? Let me use the same code. I am copying pasting there, right? I have this Suspense and I want my About to be in place of grocery, right? I have wrapped this About component into Suspense, right? If I go back to my home page, right? And let me just refresh the page. So now I have this one bundle. If I go to my About Us page, so we have a different bundle for About Us page. If I go to my grocery, I will have different bundle for my grocery page. See this? So this is how I can distribute my application into smaller chunks, right? And this will make our application very performant. This is very super important thing if you want to be a senior developer. Very important thing to know, right? React applications grow big, and this is how you optimize them. This is how you make them performant. This is how you do dynamic import, chunking. Tell all these things to your interviewer. When I used to take interviews, right? Nowadays I have stopped taking interviews now, right? Nowadays I am not taking interviews, but when I used to take interviews, right? When I used to interview people, they never used to tell me all this stuff, right? These things are very important. When you will tell all these things to your interviewer will be impressed, right? Whenever you are telling all these things, interviewer will be impressed, and not just impressed. You don't have to just impress your interviewer, but when you will go and work on large projects, right? These things are really very helpful, not just in your interviews, but outside also, in your work also, right? You should know all these things. That is why I wanted to teach you this thing. That's all I wanted to show you in this episode. This was Optimizing the App, episode number 9. We have covered what all things? Let's just do a quick recap, right? We have created custom hooks, right, in this app. Right? We created custom hooks. We created this use restaurant menu. Then we created use online restaurant. And then we also saw that how we can use it very easily, right? We use this online status, right, very easily over here, right? Just 4-5 lines, and we did that green check and red check and all that stuff, right? We can show that green box and red dot and whatnot, right? We saw that, and then we also saw an important thing of lazy loading, right? We also saw an important thing of lazy loading over here. It's not good. It's not looking good here, right? Let me show it to you. We saw that lazy loading. We have this lazy function. We have this import function. And also note down these names, right? You can, same concept, different names. The world is using different names. So I want you to know all of them. Okay. So this is what I wanted to cover in this episode 9. Hope you would have enjoyed it. Hope you will become a very great developer, right? Hope you will build large scale applications and performant, right? You will develop large scale production ready applications. To do that, you should have this knowledge for sure. That's all in this video, and thanks for watching.